Creed 3 was really frustrating. It was really frustrating. I heard it was written by Coogler. Coogler, to me, between Fruitvale Station and Creed 1, and to a slightly lesser extent, but still very powerful, Black Panther 1. To me, there's nobody writing complex stories about black men better than Ryan Coogler. For classical images of black masculinity and the complexities around that, nobody's done better than Ryan Coogler in this modern generation. And it may be ever. Like, I don't know if Spike ever really caught masculinity. Spike gets race. No, Creed 3 was written by Coogler. Keenan Coogler? Oh shit, that changes everything. Really? Is that real or somebody joking? Oh, hell no. Did nepotism fuck up the movie? I mean, he wrote Space Jam. So, that may be the puzzle piece I've been missing. No, the whole thesis don't go out the window. It just started with, it was just going to start with the fact that, to me, this is Ryan Coogler's worst writing by a wide margin. Now it makes sense, because if it wasn't written by Ryan Coogler, now I understand why the writing was not just not up to par. I'm not saying this is a bad movie. This is an entertaining movie. I enjoyed it for the most part. Let me start with positive stuff. I was on record of saying I didn't know how Michael B was gonna keep up with Jonathan Majors in this movie. I was like, ain't no way Michael B gonna be able to act in the same room as Jonathan Majors. And he did. I gotta give Michael B credit. Michael B, to me, has never been like a super strong actor, but he put in a really strong performance in this movie. Further, Michael B's directing in this movie was really good. It was the performances were good all the way around. The directing was good. You know, I'm sure there's some like super media studies person, film person that can tell me all the flaws. For a regular person who still enjoys Marvel movies, the acting and directing were great. There was some really cool shots, some really cool ideas, a lot of really good stuff in the movie. What frustrated me was that this movie had potential to be such a powerful, deep film about black men going through stuff, dealing with stuff, and it was really, really shallow. It was way shallower. Like, I understand it's like, all right, everything don't gotta be No Country for Old Men, right? Everything ain't gotta be Moonlight. Like, I didn't need it to be all that deep. But for it to be as shallow and missing elements as it was, I felt cheated. Especially when you go back to Creed 1, and from what I hear, Creed 2. Here's a simple part of it. The movie didn't earn its ending. Instead of giving us a complex discussion around black male trauma and healing and conflict and brotherhood and friendship and fatherhood and all these other things that were there in the movie, it kind of just glazed over that to get to the really cool boxing fight at the end of the movie. So a perfect example. So I want to just go to the end. So here's the gist of the story. Michael B. Jordan is Adonis Creed. He's been a champion for how many years? It's in the future, and he's retired, and he's a promoter now. Jonathan Majors is his homeboy from his childhood group home struggle days. If you've ever heard the phrase "show don't tell" in film, that's what this film did for most of the whole movie. It was like these two little boys. It starts out with them as kids, and we get to, I guess, the scene where one of them goes to jail, right? And that's almost all we get of them as kids. We don't get hardly anything else. So we don't really get to appreciate them as friends. The movie tells us multiple times that Jonathan Majors' character was better than Michael B. Jordan. It taught Michael B. Jordan everything that he knew about boxing. But we never see Michael B. and Jonathan Majors' character fight. We never see them fight as kids. We never see how they meet. We never see any type of rivalry. They just say, I used to beat you when we was kids. we hear Jonathan Majors talk about being in prison for 17, 18 years and him talk about how that was a struggle and how angry and like, you know, furious he was watching Michael B live his dream. We hear him say that, but we don't see that. There's no scenes, like a basic scene of Jonathan Majors doing push-ups in lockup, watching Michael B. Jordan fight. So they don't give us that. And instead, they waste our time with Felicia Rashad's character. The movie was predictable as hell. Like, and it's not to, like, movies don't have to be fucking mysteries, but like, they sit down in like the first 15 minutes of the movie and like they're having dinner. Felicia Rashad, what's the light-skinned sister's name? They used to date, Janelle Monáe, that plays the wife character, and Michael B. Jordan is sitting in there drinking wine. And like the conversation is basically, hey, don't drink too much wine. You know you had a stroke before. And it's like, all right, well, she's gonna have a stroke later in the movie and probably die. Right? Tessa Thompson, thank you. So like that they seeded that plot device so like blatantly and lacking in finesse. It's like, all right, well, I know that's gonna happen. There's a moment in the movie where another boxer gets like assaulted, and the way Jonathan Majors' character reacts to it, I'm already a little suspicious. I'm like, okay. But then they show the guy's face on the screen. It's like, this guy right here assaulted the boxer, and now we don't know what's gonna happen with the big fight. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly Jonathan Majors set that up. And so it's like, I mean, for me, for people that watch movies a lot, that was like, you saw that coming a mile away. Other folks, maybe not, and I'm not trying to judge. It's just, to me, it was mad predictable. But I'm fine with predictability. I was waiting to give passes to all of that until we got to the end fight. The end fight is this amazing spectacle that wants to be this emotional, like how many of y'all like, so I'm not going to make it seem like women in films fighting is something very different than when boys and men fight. But physical violence traditionally is one of the few venues through which men and boys are able to convey deep emotions to each other. This is why there's the trope of, boys can fight and then still be friends after. Because the way patriarchy works, a fight, physical violence, is usually one of the first places boys learn to communicate their emotions. It's not a good thing per se, but it is a thing. And when done right, there is a beauty to that. You know what I'm saying? And so I saw that coming. I was like, oh, this last fight gonna be good. But as I was watching the movie, I'm like, this last fight ain't gonna be that good. Because I don't care. Because I'm not emotionally connected to the characters like I need to be. I don't care who wins this fight enough, because they made Jonathan Majors into too much of a villain and not sympathetic enough to the point where I'm like, that fight needed to happen in a situation where, as I'm watching, I just want him to stop fighting. You know what I mean? Remember, perfect example. It's not perfect. This is not I'm drawing a blank. But remember how you felt in the fight at the end of Black Panther 2. The way you felt during that fight, I know for me at least, I just wanted them to stop fighting. Because I didn't want either of them to lose, because the movie had built up stakes and emotions for both characters to the point where it wasn't just watching the hero beat the villain. It was watching two people who had earned emotional stakes from me fight. And when it was over, I was relieved. Michael B's direction was for real good, acting was decent, but they tried to make Dame the villain when he clearly was the hero. Yes! Dame clearly should have won the fight. More of the story, people from prison is bad. Ooh, yeah, there was a little bit of that, right? Yeah, like it was. I haven't even dared to go into like the subtext conversations here, of like the class analysis. I ain't even bothered to do that because I know that's probably gonna piss me off. I'm gonna just leave it surface level for now. And so this fight, unlike what happened in Black Panther, I didn't care enough. But the end of the fight, they clearly wanted me to care more about Dame than I did. And they didn't earn it. And then there's like, in the fight, there's some dope stuff. I won't spoil it. I don't know. I won't spoil it. I'll just say the thing that made me know the movie had failed was in this last fight scene, they do this really cool sequence where they pull on visual images of the history of these two characters. And I'll just say one of them, I'll do this one little spoiler. One of them was a prison cell. At a certain point during this fight, they're suddenly fighting in a prison cell. And I think to myself, man, that would have been super effective as a visual, metaphor had we seen Dame, Jonathan Majors' character, actually locked up in prison for any point in time in the movie. And we don't. So the first time we see the very powerful, emotionally weighted image of Black man fighting in prison is in the end of the movie. And at that point, it doesn't have that much emotional stakes. I'm not tied to that image. And there's so much value that can be pulled out of that was just left on the floor. I didn't see Michael B. Jordan's character lose to Dame at any point. Bobby Caldwell passed away? Wow, R.I.P. Bobby Caldwell. Yeah. This is the classic response to Bobby Caldwell. There's one of those moments where you hear a song through your whole childhood, then you see who sings it, and you're like, what? Anyway, so you hear Michael B. talk over and over about how anime influenced the movie. And you think, okay, if he's into sports anime or shonen anime, then he knows how to create a fight with emotional stakes. But he just didn't. That's the short version of it. Because I don't want to linger on this too long. The movie was well made, well acted, and it was good enough. But I was ready to have like a really emotional, cathartic moment with that last fight. And the last fight seems like it was designed to do that. And it just didn't. It just didn't because they didn't seed all the appropriate things to make it happen. Finally, moving on. I left the theater feeling robbed. I left the theater feeling like somewhere along the line, whether it was a producer, whether it was Coogler's brother, I don't know who it was, but I took personally this idea in my head. So I'm not saying this is what it is, but how I felt was that somebody said, Black men don't need a movie about them that's that deep. Is how I felt when I like it all settled in. Is that we have all these great movies. We have a lot, and don't get me wrong, like there's tons of good movies. Creed 1, again, very deep. But this movie had the potential to be much more than it was, and it just feels like it sold us short. It didn't give us everything it had, low-key, because I guess it didn't think we needed it.